So let me ask you, why did you decide to make this one?
Oh, well, I grew up in Philadelphia, and I grew up on the northwest side, and, compared to Kensington, it's not rough, but we had our share of drug issues and violence issues. So I knew, this Kensington stuff is absolutely nothing new. In fact, the more I researched, the more I realized that it goes back centuries, back to the 1700s. And just the way it was founded and what it was founded for. And, it was nothing new to me. Kensington has always been really, really, really bad. It's worse now, but it was always a place known as somewhere to avoid. It was always creepy, it was always depressing, it was always, not a good place to be. So, you learn, you have to get around Philly to function in Philly, so you learn how to just, get around Kensington and parts of Frankfurt were pretty bad too. Plus, the L, it always made me feel claustrophobic and closed in. It kind of casts this kind of eerie shadow onto the street. It's just a weird place to be. And you can feel the depression from the moment you get there until the moment you leave. I just always felt the L was just a really creepy, kind of just put a roof on it, and it kind of makes people feel trapped, or at least it did with me. So that was, I've been to Kensington when I was in my teens, and just because, out of curiosity. It's like when you're a teen and you're growing up in Philly, you think you're a badass. And then you find out what a real badass is. So it's like, this can't be too bad. Let's go check it out. I always regretted going there. Well, there's a lot of reasons. People tune in. There's a lot of videos on YouTube about what's happening in Kensington today. So you go there and you watch it, and you don't know any of the history, and you don't, it's just like total complete culture shock, and people want to help, and which is awesome. But they don't get it. They think somehow that this is new or something. So I wanted to clear up that kind of confusion that this is not something that happened in this century or last century, even the century before. It all started on the founding of Kensington and why it was founded and what it was used for. It goes back to that. I was surfing around YouTube or something, I don't know, in my recommended video, which is, videos that YouTube recommends to you and think you might like. I found a video made by Morals Over Money, which is Frank Rodriquez's channel. And Frank goes out on the streets of Kensington and he cuts people's hair. He helps clean up. He interviews addicts. He's got a long storied past, but he's trying to reach back and help. And I subscribed to him and started watching all his videos, and it's just like, oh my god. Because I saw, it go from really bad to like a living hell. Kensington today is like being in hell. It's really, really bad. So I just got interested. I've always been interested in social issues and people who are struggling, and it just felt perfectly natural. to do a whole lot of research and try to get the whole story. I wanted the people visiting these channels to know that there's more to what they're seeing than meets the eye.
Now that it's done, do you wish that perhaps you didn't open this can of worms?
I feel that way with just about everything I do. The editing took a whole, long time. The research, the drawing, it all took a really long time. If it wasn't, burnout, because there's always something new to learn there, it was the depression effect. There's only so much heartache one person can bear. So when you're doing this 10, 12 hours a day, just researching, writing about it, and viewing it, it gets depressing as hell. So, that factor made me want to, not quit the project, but take a week or two off, and just, back away a little bit. And I did try to do that, but then, that didn't work. I would just, because there's so much to it, and it's so multi-dimensional, I had to know, especially if I felt like I was missing a part of the story, I had to figure out, the answer.
Others have tried to tell this story, but weren't able to do so. It may just have been too tough for them, so they gave up.
Well, I understand that perfectly, and it's because it's depressing. There are moments where it's just like, Jesus, how much can I take? It's a tough issue.
Knowing that there are just some problems without solutions, do you think there is a solution for this problem?
Yeah, well, solutions is an odd word, It means, something final. I don't think getting anything final on this issue is realistic at all. You have to come to terms with the fact that you're not going to save everybody. That's unrealistic. It would be nice, but it's not going to happen. I think that the solution, if there is any solution, is in prevention of the next generation falling into this. Education is the key. Educating today's children on what child. I see a lot of these addicts are products of severe childhood trauma, with sexual and physical and mental abuse, abandonment. I think more money, more time, more effort should be put on educating today's child on what these things do to a human being for the course of their life, if there is any kind of solution, it's in preventing the next generation from repeating. There's a definite pattern here, and we have to stop repeating that pattern. It's not just necessarily on, education. I mean, these kids in Kensington, they know all about the end result of drugs. They know, they see it every day. So, you're not going to educate them and then get them to just say no's. You have to be realistic, and I think white bread people who come from, a sheltered world don't understand that it's, there's no easy solution to this. It comes at you from all different, it's there's a whole bunch of factors that go into this, and it's not just say no. You know what I mean? That we have to, so, educating the kids on, these are tomorrow's parents, and educating them on what child abuse is, what child abuse does, how hard being a parent is, or a husband, or a wife, and how to hold a job, how to find something that you love to do, so you love your job and therefore love your life. So there's no, there's no incentive to self-destruct when you love yourself and you love your life. Creating more jobs, which I do have some great ideas that I'd love to talk to the mayor about. Jobs just for this Kensington neighborhood. Jobs, strictly for this neighborhood. Good jobs. Not factory shit. Good jobs. In ways, I'm glad I stuck with it, but it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It just keeps, and this very, very well could be just the opening chapter in thousands of other videos.
What's the end game here? Are you happy you stuck with it?
Well, I don't think there is an end game, and I kind of figured it out when I was like halfway through it. What my incentive and why I made this was to help, to do my part. There's things everyone can do, so that was the incentive to do this, get this done, succeed on educating people so they don't just see this on the surface and just something that's easy, and to tell the whole story and the whole history. That was my incentive. That was the end game just to this video, but like I said, this might just be just opening up.
You stated in a conversation that you had with Dr. Phillips on YouTube that the expert on addiction is the addict.
Mm-hmm. The expert on the addict is the addict. Yeah, nobody knows addiction better than the addict, the person struggling with it. And that can be said about a lot of things. And unfortunately, that's another problem with, people who try to address this issue. They're looking for experts from all over the world, and the expert is the person in the video, the person nodding out from heroin. That's the expert. And it's a shame that they missed a resource, and I believe that I mentioned this in the video. That's just a vast, huge source of wisdom and insight and understanding.
Well, you seem to know an awful lot about this. Are you an addict?
No, I can't even smoke pot. I get rid of paranoia. No. I'm a drinker. I drink. No, I say I grew up with it. My elder sister, Terry, was an addict. And I saw, I saw the end result of that, and I was just a little kid, and I decided right then and there, that's not for me. So, yeah, now, drinking was always my vice. Although I'm not an alcoholic, I just like to drink. And every alcoholic probably says that. No, drugs just were never my thing. I just know a lot about it because I've done a lot of research on it. I've helped some addicts too over the years, and I've had, I know what this is about because I've just been around it. At the same time that I grew up with him, it was always pretty close to me. I was always interested in it. The secrecy of it, the subculture, the alternative existence. And then with the big question is why the hell would somebody do this to themselves? And a lot of times it just starts at a basic curiosity. People are interested in it, and then the ones who have had trauma learn real quick that it doesn't solve it, but it takes it away. That they're the ones that get seriously addicted to the hard drug. But there's other factors too. Like a lot of people find hard drugs because the doctor prescribes them hard drugs, and they were in some kind of serious pain from some accident or something. And while taking away the pain of the accident, whatever, broken bones or whatever, it also took away the emotional pain, and that's how you get addicted. So, it's a sad thing. From the outside, and a lot of people have said it's just a slow form of suicide. And that's sad. That's really sad. Especially when you see him nodding out like you see a lot in this video. It's really sad. There's just nothing else to it. The depressing topics, for some reason, have never, stopped me from. That just made it more intriguing and more interesting. It's like, well, okay, isn't there a better way to deal with this than this? There's got to be a better way, and actually there's not. So in a way, instead of putting a gun to their heads and killing themselves, this is like a survival technique, in this ass backward way. So now I'm staying alive, and this is how I choose to stay alive. So I just find it all very interesting, so I just kept wanting to know more and more and more. But I was never tempted to see, how is this going to make me feel. I kind of know how it's going to make me feel, and I know the end result. I know where it goes, and I don't want to go there. I think. I know I still have value as a human being, and that's the ingredient that most of them are just missing.
You also state in that conversation that there is a common bond among addicts. Would you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, the bond is in the fact that they accept each other. Whereas people who want to help, and people like me and you, we want to save. We want to inspire. We want to save, and their fellow addicts, they just, hey, I'm an addict, you're an addict, let's go get high. So there's that, weird bond there. It's a bond of acceptance. And, addicts don't try to change each other, they don't try to inspire each other. They don't put each other on guilt trips. They don't, Like, an addict won't walk up to another addict and say, hey, you could be like me. And they are like that. And they understand each other. They understand why this is where they wound up. There's really nothing to explain. And this is where, people who want to help, people have great intentions, make a big mistake. We don't even know, but we tend to be really judgmental and really kind of harsh in our judgment, and the addict can see right through it. It's like, you want me to be like you? Well, I just want to be like me. No addict wants to be an addict and have this problem, but people tend to think that this is something that the addict wanted, something that they, no child grows, no child says, when I grow up I want to be a drug addict. So we tend to think that this choice that they made, and you can say it was a horrible, terrible, rotten, bad choice. But you also have to understand what else it is, and I get into that in the video too. If somebody walking up to an addict to help him winds up doing more damage than good, and they don't know it, they're trying to help. But a lot of times they're doing a lot more damage.
Why don't addicts feel guilt and remorse for what they put their loved ones through? What's that about?
There is, that's another misconception that we have. There's an absolute, especially when it comes to their children, there's so much guilt there that you see, we tend to realize that becomes another reason to escape and another reason to go find a bag of heroin. It's that the pain from all that guilt. It just compounds the whole thing. So when you bring that up to an addict and say, "What about your children?" What they're thinking about is, "Oh God, where's my next bag of heroin?" It just becomes a big factor on escaping, and that's one of the things that keep them where they're at. Is every time they start getting sobered up and clean, they feel so much guilt for what they've done to their children that it's just unbearable. It's in or actually not in the ability to solve everyday problems. So you get a call from the utility company saying they're going to turn your electric off unless you come up with $150 by Tuesday. So you tell yourself, okay, I got this, I need to get on this, I'll get on this, I'll solve this problem, no problem, I'll take care of it. Their voice says, I can't do this, I'm a loser, I'm a failure, You picture yourself sitting in your house with no electric, and they do too, but their ability to solve problems because of how they've been kicked around, and most of them are products of child abuse. They have all this horrible negative crap inside them to saying they're too stupid, they'll never do it, they can't do it. But they can turn a quick trick and come up with a $10 bag of heroin. And so it's not a solving of the problem. If you don't solve this problem, it's going to get worse. And so their idea, and now you know why they call it a fix, their idea of fixing the problem is removing themselves, including their brains, from the problem, from the stress of the problem, from the worry of the problem, and go boot a bag of heroin, okay? So heroin takes you away from everything. It doesn't matter. You can be sitting in, below 40-degree temperature, and to you and me, that's horrible. But once you're on heroin, you're numb to everything. So it takes them away from the problem. That's their idea of solving, not the problem, but the stress of the problem, the inability to cope with the problem, all the horror, all the negative thoughts and the memories and stuff. And so, if you do that, you're going to wake up tomorrow and the problem's going to be worse. And they do too, but they're removed from it, so when they wake up tomorrow, the problem that they have isn't the utility bill, it's getting another bag of heroin to remove yourself from the horror of the problem. So it's a loop, it's a neuron connection in their brain, it's a loop and a pattern that just keeps on repeating over and over and over. So your voice says you can fix this problem. Their voice automatically says, I can't. So that actually compounds the problem and gives more incentive to escape. So it's not just a turning off of the electric and sitting in the dark. It's all the bombardment of failure. I'm a loser, I'm stupid, I can't do this, I give up. It's in the way they're thinking. Can you break that connection? Can you fix that connection? I believe you can. It's just it takes a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of understanding, and people don't understand because they can't see what's going on in someone's brain. We are so ignorant to the brain. If someone's having a heart attack, we immediately rush them to the hospital. But when someone's having a brain attack, we can't see it. So we do nothing. So the fix to their problem is a $10 bag of heroin. And it's going to do nothing but make it worse, and the electric's going to get cut off, and now you're going to have a late fee and a reconnection fee, so the problem gets worse. They have a solution for that too, and that's another bag of heroin. So the answer to your question is, yeah, they feel tremendous guilt. Sometimes they feel guilt for things that they were victims of, you know what I mean? And this is what child abuse does to people. It puts the burden of the abuse on the child. So it's all of that horrible, tremendous, appalling child abuse. And now the child has to walk around the rest of its life feeling all the burden of that, and the responsibility and the guilt of all that. And it's just so fucking unfair, man. It's just so horribly unfair. When the perpetrator of the abuse is probably, sitting at the Phillies game enjoying the game. Feeling no guilt, no remorse, no nothing. So imagine walking around with all that, every day of your life, and knowing that the only real way to escape all that horror and all that pain is just a $10 bag of heroin away. See, when you begin to understand these things, you start to see things in a different light.
So finally, can you please list the best ways that a person who really cares about someone struggling with addiction can make an actual difference in that person's life?
First thing you have to understand is you're not going to understand everything. You're not the expert on this. It's really awesome that you want to help, but you're going to have to be really, really, really careful because, like I said, you can do a lot of damage. And that's, you also have to understand that you're wanting to help them you're not the first person who's probably reached out to help. So a lot of them have learned to use that as their benefit. So you have to, what you really need to understand first is, and don't give them money. Do not give them money, no matter how hard and how great of a con person that the addict is, and they will say and do anything at all, to get their next bag of heroin if they're hardcore heroin. So you have to be careful with that. You have to be careful with what you say. Don't try to put them on a guilt trip. Don't try to get them to be like you. Don't explain how great your life is. It's all going to just make them feel worse. And just give them an excuse to go get their next bag. You'd be surprised at how far a haircut will go. Thank you, Frank Rodriquez. I think they're really awesome. Because people started thinking a little bit different about themselves when they look good or look better. Take them shopping, take them to get a shower, take them to a truck stop, and you pay $10 or $15 and they can use the shower. A new outfit, if you really feel generous, your teeth fixed. These things go a long way because people start, when they look in the mirror and they like what they see, and they start feeling better about themselves, and it can get them thinking all the right thoughts, like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? I'm still, I still have something to offer. You have to be careful with everything you say and everything you do. You have to be really careful. Because again, you can do more damage than you think. Open your ears and shut your mouth. That's always a good idea. Listen and learn. There's a lot to learn. Wanting to help is probably going to fail. In fact, it's almost certain to fail. And it can be extremely devastating for you, especially, if someone manages to go to rehab and goes through it, and you got them there, and it was their decision, you got them to somehow see their value and their self-worth and build up a little bit, enough dignity to say, okay, take me to rehab. And you get that far. And if you do get that far, you rock. Now that can also be very devastating when you find out that they relapsed and overdosed and died. This can really, really rock your world. So you got to be ready for all that failure and all that disappointment and sadness. And because of all that, I think one of the best things you can do once you and understand that you're not just helping an addict, you're building a lifelong friendship, and it might just be the best friendship you ever had in your life, but it might break your heart. In fact, there's a really good chance that it's going to break your heart. So just be ready, be mentally prepared for that. And as I was about to say, one of the best things you can do is once they're about to be released from rehab, and let's say they are from a place like Kensington, the best thing you can do is keep them away from that, from Kensington. To get them out of there, find a way to get them away. If they go back to the streets of Kensington to go see their friends, or they're going to relapse. It's almost absolutely guaranteed. It's like holding your breath. Imagine going through your life holding your breath, and pretty soon you're going to breathe. You're going to find some oxygen, and that's, they're going to find that bag of heroin. And it's just going to be too great of a temptation to resist. You would have to have the strength of 1 million strong men to resist that temptation. It's just, especially in Kensington, because it's everywhere and it's dirt cheap. I mean, it's just everywhere. You snap your fingers, you can have as much as you want, for nothing, for peanuts. And you also have to understand that they're not you. All they've ever known is them. So you have to be careful with that too, and with culture shock, and getting out of rehab, and expecting them to be able to adapt just fine and go about life. I mean, it doesn't work that way. You're kind of expecting them to be something that they never were, and it's a little bit unfair, and it's very, very scary to a recovering addict. What they need is someone they can really truly trust, who's not in it for themselves. People go around because they want the glory of rescuing an addict, and you have to get off that. That's not what this is about. You really truly have to care about them, and you're going to have to earn that trust, because their ability to trust has been shattered over and over and over. It can be done. I know that for a fact. It can be done. You're just going to have to be very, very intelligent and very careful. And don't go out and be someone's sucker. They're going to play you like you've never been played in your life. So you're going to have to know when to be tough and when not to be tough. And that's going to hurt you. Ultimately, it's going to build their trust. They'll know that they can come to you and that you're not a sucker. And if they ever need anyone to talk to, they'll know that you're the person, and that's what they need. I think everyone on earth does something naturally great, and a lot of people don't even know what it is. And it's a parent's job to recognize this and support it in a child. But, it's no secret that parents often fail. So my point is, if you can find this and recognize it in an addict, they can do incredible things. But it's also a good example of something you have to be careful with. You don't want to make the addict feel like they threw their life away, and all the guilt that comes with that, they're just going to reach for another bag of heroin. But just kind of planting the seed of getting someone to think again, or just giving them the support for what they do great and naturally love to do, it can really move mountains. And the common trend is that people do care. There's a lot, well, not everybody. There's a lot of people who do care and do want to help. They just don't know what to do. So when you see a girl in the video, just her body's just flopping around and she looks like she's in painful misery. And people just walk by and they look at her and they don't stop and they don't say anything. They just keep on going. In a lot of cases, people don't stop because they don't want to get blamed for hurting this person. They don't want to be associated. People are driving by, they don't know the whole story and that you're trying to help this person. And they're apt to think that you're the one that hurt her. So that's a big reason that people, they look like they don't care, but they do. They just don't know what to do. And in a lot of cases, people have tried and failed, and that doesn't make it in a big old hurry to come back and try again. And finding an addict that wants help, that wants to go through rehab, that's really very, very rare. It does happen. I think the best thing you can do is once they get out of rehab is to physically get that person as far away from Kensington as you can get in places like Kensington. Although I don't think there's anything quite as bad as Kensington. There's places that are more violent, but they're usually, they're not wide out in the open like Kensington. Yeah, getting them away from that area is absolutely imperative, because it's like, if they're still around there, it's like holding your breath. I mean, eventually, they're going to want some oxygen, and so you say it's willpower, but you would have to have the strength of 1,000 very strong people to deal with that kind of temptation 24/7, knowing that the next bag of heroin is just feet away from you. You and I, we deal with stress by fixing the problem, okay, by getting to the root of the problem and addressing the problem and fixing it. They've learned to deal with stress by eliminating the problem, removing themselves from the problem, or destroying the problem. So it's a little deceiving. The person just walking by doesn't even slow down, doesn't even look, just is focused straight ahead. They see, they get a glimpse of what's going on. But at the same time, if they really do care, they're kind of telling themselves, like, is it out of sight, out of mind? I can't look at this because it's going to hurt me. It's going to break my heart. That there's nothing I can do. I don't know what to do. So if I don't look, I'm not connected to it. As for the political side of things, there's so much more that can be done. And number one, I think it should be mandated by the state that when a company comes in and builds a factory and years down the road they don't need it anymore, or there's no demand for the product, whatever it is, it should be illegal to just walk away from that building and abandon it. So it's either sell it to somebody who will use it within a certain amount of time, or bulldoze it so the neighborhood can build a park there, or a building that's actually going to be productive and useful. It should absolutely be against the law to abandon a building in any area, in any state. But I know why the politicians don't put this mandate on. They want to be the one bragging about, bringing jobs into that area. So it's all about the business, and to hell with the actual people. The jobs are shitty. You're not saying much when you bring all these jobs in, and so they make it super easy on the business. And not only that, but in a case like a factory, it often takes centuries for it to go, unuseful. So they're not going to be the politicians taking the heat for it. So look at El Campamento, or the Gulch, whatever you want to call it. That could be the greatest park in America. So Conrail should be mandated to do something with that, to fill it, at least fill it up, with fill dirt. So the city can make a park out of it and can create little league teams and give the kids something productive to do, and hire security personnel to to keep the kids and everybody else safe. You could even name it Conrail Park. I don't know. Um, I've seen incredible things happen, but they're rare. It's rare for something great to happen. Usually, when an addict gets sober, they're just a sober addict, and it's usually just a temporary span of time. So the relapse rate is it's just off the charts. It's nearly 100%. But you never want to say, it's just impossible and just walk away so you don't have to think about it anymore. If you go out 1,000 times and give things your best shot and one person gets saved, you have to determine if all the failure was worth that one, success story. And if you're going to ask me, and I'm no expert on this either, but I've been around it a lot and I have helped addicts very infrequently, but I have made a dent in this issue within just a handful of people. I think the key is to prevent this problem. That you have to stop the 10 and 12 and 13-year-old kid from being curious about this. And how do you do that with a kid? Give them opportunity, give them promise, and give them hope. Not all of them are going to go to college. Not all of them are going to walk the straight line. Some of them are going to think they're badasses and can beat this, and they can't. I think the solution to this is in prevention. And I think that's where the money and the time and the energy needs to be spent in preventing it and keeping those kids inspired, keeping them filled with hope. It has been recognized that drug abuse starts with a child being abused. That kind of trauma sets up the child for a life of drug addiction. They are naturally attracted to escaping that pain. But you're probably aware of politicians working to solve a problem. First, they have to study the problem, and that could take years. And then they recommend things to the city, and then the city council has to vote on how much they want to spend and what's in the. Yeah, it's just a bureaucratic nightmare. Things need to be done yesterday. Child abuse has to be caught while the child is being abused, and that has to be prevented also. The damage of child abuse has to be educated to the public. We have to stop keeping child abuse in the dark. It has to be conveyed to the public. It has to be an open discussion, and it has to be prevented before it happens. Public school teachers have to know their role in this, and they have to be able to spot it in a child. Police forces have to be trained to understand these problems, and they have to understand that they can't punish this away. This is no place for some militant badass trying to punish addicts and seeing them as weak. They're not weak. And I know a big percentage of society just looks at these people and says, they're just losers, they're just weak, they're just cowards. That is not the case in this issue. And it's no solution. It's not a solution. Even if you could punish all these people and lock them, it does not work. It makes it worse. And I guess I just need to stop now and just put this away. And I did what I could do for now, and that's this video. Hopefully it will gain some kind of traction and make some kind of difference, even if it's just one human life.